Hello and welcome to Stitched from My Stash. My name is Julie and I'm coming to you from just north of Glasgow in the UK. And the aim of my channel is to get me motivated to sew up my stash. And I think I've been quite successful this year, but there's plenty more to get through. Okay, so I talk about knitting, sewing, patchwork and quilting, and today I'm also going to chat about some embroidery I've done. First of all, thank you very much for joining me. It's good to have your company, and let's crack on with today's episode. I'm going to give a brief outline of what I'm going to chat about, which is 2 finished items, which are both bags. I put some photos up here, some mending, and some plans for the future, and a bit of chit chat about things I've learnt about sewing this week off the internet, YouTube channels I'm enjoying, and just a bit of, life stuff, things I've been up to. So if that's for you, stay tuned. If not, that's fine. So first of all, what I'm wearing. This is another version of this pattern, and I had the cream one on last week, and I think I showed a flowered version. I think I've made 4 of these, one of which has gone now. It was a bit too stretchy. This, on the other hand, is just about stretchy enough. It's probably, it's an acrylic fabric. How to describe it, I'm not sure. It's got a tiny bit of stretch, and I don't know if you can see, it's got lines going down the warp. So it's got sort of a line going down in the fabric. 3/4 sleeves, and I made this version with the 3/4 sleeves. Excuse me, I'm going to cough. Excuse me. I will add a little video here of me modelling the outfit, and I would recommend that pattern. Not sure if it's still in print. I made this, I did look it up in my sewing record book, which I think is like an art book, a hardback art book, and I try and cut a little bit of the fabric and write the dates down and the size, etc. So this was made in 2020. Now, I don't think I've worn this one that much, but I'm going to dig it out again because I think it's a nice comfy wear. The trousers are made from this pattern, which is, as they say, well old. So I don't know if this is still in print, but I bought this in a charity shop, hence the £1. Oh, blimey, 6 years ago. And I made the trousers before I started my sewing journal. So that's pre-2020. So at least 5-6 years ago. The fabric for the top came from Abercorn in North Wales, in Rhyl. The fabric from for the trousers came from my dear late mother's stash, and interestingly, it's shrunk now because it's been washed, worn. I really like the style. Again, I'm not sure what fabric it is. It must be some kind of natural fabric, if that's the right way of saying it, because it's shrunk. But if you notice in the video, it is quite short on my ankles, but I think that's a bit of the style these days. I've myself have made trousers that are a little bit short, shy of your ankles. So again, I'm going to dig these out and wear them again. I particularly like this pattern because of the high waist. I've mentioned this before. I went through quite a few trouser patterns before I plumped on a few that I really like. And I was looking for ones with the high waist. I think I've got quite wide hips anyway, and the below the waist ones, they don't suit me. You can't tuck things in as well. So I really like this because of the high waist. Anything else to say about my outfit? I think that's it. Oldies but goodies. So I do have my notebook here and I'm ticking off what I'm wearing. So excuse me while I have a sip of tea. Cheers. On to my finished items. First of all, I'm going to show, it's 2 bags. First of all, I'm going to show this bag. I will add a photo of me with the bag with a full view. It's a crossbody bag. And where's the pattern? This is the pattern, and it's this version. So I will put the patterns below or in the description. It's a very, very easy make. There's 2 pieces of fabric cut on the fold, and you just leave a tuck. One is the lining, one is the outer, and you just leave a tuck, leave an opening to pull the lining through, and then right the way out. And then it's joined with a bow on the top. And I think it's a good bag to, because of the fabric, and I'll say a bit more about the fabric, it's a good one to fold up and put in a handbag when not in use. Yet I think you could still get quite a lot in there for city break or whatever, which we are going on, or when I look after my granddaughter who's 3 and I take her to playgroup. Invariably you end up with drink bottle, snack, sometimes change of clothing, etc. So I thought it would be a good one for holding her hand, and I wouldn't have a bag to fuss about. We go on the bus, which is great, and I thought it would be really useful for that. I am very pleased with this bag. So to the fabric. We lived for, I think it was 7 years, in the most beautiful valley in North Wales. It was a real special place, but it was time to move on. Hence we're now up in Scotland. And one of the things I loved about the valley was there were fantastic walks you could do from the house. Didn't need to drive. We were very lucky, near a hill called Caboodlers in North Wales. And just below Caboodlers is a beautiful Llyn lake, Llyn Welsh for lake. And we'd go and we could swim there. It was absolutely stunning. But people would camp there. Now, there is the debate about wild camping or whatever. That's another debate. But people would camp there and sometimes they'd leave a mess. So one day, Andrew and I were up there for a walk, and there was heck of a mess. There was bags of food, meat, loads of stuff, disposable barbecues, plus a massive tent. So we dragged all this stuff as far as we could, and then we asked one of the farmers in the valley would he go up, because he was through a locked gate and whatever, to collect the stuff. But, which he did, but I kept the tent. And this is made out of the reclaimed tent fabric. Hence, I'm really pleased with it. And there's loads of tent fabric left, which I will repurpose into something else. But I do know of a company, and I'll put their name below, in Sheffield, that, just because I've seen them on the internet, that use tents and stuff people leave at festivals. One of my sons in particular goes to festivals, but I don't think he leaves stuff there. I hope not. So this company in Sheffield do make, not like this, they make other stuff out of reclaimed tents that people have left at festivals, which I think is a fab idea. So this is my little version of Reclaim. To be honest, I can't wait to use it. I think it's great. So that's my one finished item. And I will add photos of the pile of rubbish that we dragged so far down the track. It was quite a way. It's about 40 minutes walk from the house we used to live in. But Edwin, one of the farmers, did respond very quickly to our phone call to go and put the stuff on his little truck and bring it down. So that's my first finished item. The other finished item I'm really pleased with as well, which is the embroidered tote bag, which I started ages ago. Now, I'm new to embroidery, so this is perhaps my third sort of finished piece of embroidery. I'm really pleased with it. I think the effect of the bright colours on the black background is gorgeous. I really like it. Now, the embroidery isn't perfect. As I said, I'm fairly new to embroidery. For instance, I don't know if I can show, sort of, this one isn't so good. And this one is called long and short needles. So that one got better as I went along. What other stitches are on there? I'll show the pack pattern in a moment. They were calling these French bean, which I assume is French knot, so I could do those. I think they called this chrysanthemum stitch. And I'm not quite sure of the difference between satin stitch and straight stitch. Anyway, I think that's really effective. I did mix up some of the colours, but that looks fine to me. If I show you the pattern, it's, let's see, that's what you get in terms of the pattern, and some instructions on the stitches, which I couldn't really decipher all of them. So I did go on the internet and look up some tutorials. And that's the picture you use for your guidance. And that's the bag. There is a bigger tote bag version. Now, I bought this in a charity shop when we were donating, and I couldn't resist. And it was £3, £3 UK pounds. Now, I've looked on the internet, and you can get these on Amazon for about £12. And I think that's a wonderful gift for somebody who likes sewing and embroidery. I would be pleased with that as a gift. I think it's quite a long process. You know, I started it, then I picked it up again perhaps a week ago, and I've been doing a little bit in the evening and a little bit in the morning. So I think that's a really lovely gift for somebody who's into embroidery. No, it's not huge. It's a nice size actually. So what else comes in the kit? As I said, I bought it in a charity shop. But you get the hoop, which it's a plastic hoop, and it has, if I can quickly undo the hoop, it has a groove, which in the inside hoop, which keeps the fabric really secure. And so you get the hoop, the pattern, and you get the yarns on this colour chart, so it gives you the colour chart. As I said, I mixed up some of the colours, and you get a needle threader and 2 embroidery needles. So I think that was really a good project. What I would say I wish I hadn't done is, because I started it then didn't come back to it for a while, I left it in the hoop, and it'll probably come off, but I can see it's left a bit of an indent where the hoop was, so I wouldn't keep the hoop in there. You know, I've been taking it out once I restarted doing it. The other thing, if you're a bit of a neat, I don't know, if you really focus on being neat, obviously the inside is exposed. So I don't know if you'd catch the inside whilst you're putting things in the bag. I did consider whether or not to do a lining, but I think because that isn't part of the pattern, it would spoil it. So I'm pleased with that. And again, I look forward to using it. I was thinking, will I use it for sort of projects? Anyway, we'll see. So that's another finished item, which I'm going to tick off, which I can't even see it now. Okay. Right. Excuse me again while I have a sip of tea. Sorry. The next couple of things I've done this week are mending. And the first one is just a really simple mend, which is to re-sew on a little clasp on these trousers. So these are a Vogue trouser, which are 5 years old, with the side pockets. I've shown this pattern before, and they're just made out of a really lightweight cotton, and you can see from the colour they have faded a bit, but they are a comfy wear. Again, one of my go-to trouser patterns because it has a high waist, and they can go back in my wardrobe rather than malingering in my sewing room, and I might get some wear out of them in the autumn time. So that's my first piece of mending. My second piece of mending, I put a photograph here, is a pair of Andrew's jeans, which are probably just getting beyond mending. So this is the bit I mended, these patches here, and denim, well, in Andrew's case, gets really thin, and these covered up some really, really thin patches on the front and some really thin worn patches on the back. Again, I'll add some photos of the what they were like before. Now, I'm not saying I like mending. Perhaps I'd rather be doing other things. And this does take a bit of commitment. I go around the patch with, say, a zigzag or I don't know what it's called. Anyway, now I do have lots of thread. So I don't mind using the thread to go round the edges, but it does take quite a while. And anyway, it's done. And again, this can go back into circulation in his wardrobe. Now, you might think I should mend those bits as well. In actual fact, beneath here is a patch I did ages ago. So this isn't the surface. Sorry, this is the surface, but below that is another patch. And I quite like the look of that, the way the fabric has worn, and it's given that, I don't know, woven stripy effect. We'll see. I may come back and add some patches on top. But that's another finished item in my book, some mending. Just put that to one side, and the other mending and the 2 bags. Right, what else do I want to chat about? I've watched a couple of nice YouTube videos this week, and one in particular, I think I watched it yesterday or whatever, day before, was by Gemima of London, and I'll put it along the bottom. And she was talking about, she's based in London, Walthamstow Market. Now, I've been to London, but I don't know London that well. But apparently this street in London is just absolutely chock-a-block of fabric, haberdashery, yarn shops. And she does a really nice video of going into these shops, and then she does what she bought at the end. And the fabrics she bought were very cheap. Now, I would like to go to London again. We are based up in Scotland, so it is quite a way. But if I go, I would really like to go to this Walthamstow Street, even though I am supposed to be using my stash. I'm on the lookout really for curtain fabric for our dining room. Whether or not I would haul meters and meters of curtain fabric from London, I'm not so sure. And of course, if I did go in, I'd be tempted to buy fabric that I don't really need. But I thought that was interesting, Walthamstow Market. And I would like to know if you've been and what you think of it. I know a friend of mine based in Glasgow, they went to London, and she mentioned a street that they went to with fantastic fabric shops, but I couldn't recall what it was, and I haven't seen her recently. Well, not this week. So let me know, please, if you've been to Walthamstow Market in London and what you think. Plus, if there is this other street that my friend mentioned in London, which is a street full of fabric and haberdashery shops. But I thought that was interesting. Take a look if you fancy. The other things I've been watching, I like to watch, they're called Kit and Caboodle, and what else are they called? Mudlarkers, I think. And they go around collecting stuff off foreshores, and they make beautiful little dolls' houses, and they're so positive. So I like watching those. Of course, there's always The Last Homely House with Kate, I think she's called, which I watched yesterday, and she's been going 8 years. And again, really positive. And she particularly does quilting. The other one I've been watching is called Chris O'Neill. Again, I put the name at the bottom. And she's a quilter, and she's called Sew the Distance. And I found something very interesting on watching Chris O'Neill this week. She was talking about how to change the thread on your domestic machine. And I looked, anyway, she was saying, don't pull it through the bottom. You take it, no, don't pull it through the top, sorry, but pull it through the bottom. I'll add a little video here of me demonstrating what she meant. And I looked through my manual for my sewing machine, couldn't find anything on this anywhere. But I looked online, and other sewists are saying the same, that if you pull the thread through the top, you are pulling fluff and stuff, and you could potentially damage your machine. So on trying pulling it through the top, you can see there is some resistance there, but pulling it through the bottom, it comes out much more easily. Again, what are your thoughts? Have you come across this? It's new to me, but I'm going to try and remember to bring it through the bottom. You do get then more waste thread, but I suppose if you get an empty spool, you could just wind the empty bits round the spool and save them for hand stitching. If you're a frugal sewer like me, or you can just throw them away if not. I thought that was so interesting. And again, she is a really positive sewer and quilter, which brings me on to my plans. And I want to make a quilt soon. And it's going to be a scrap quilt. And she was talking about rules for scrap quilting. And she said she's not the quilt police. And of course, you can do whatever you like. But I think there is some sense in trying to get some coordination in a scrap quilt. You know, I'm a learner quilter as well. We're all learning, aren't we? So I've got here in this tub, if I lift it up, squares that I've cut out over the years. And they go from, I don't know, what would that be? 3 inches, 2.5 inches to, 2.5 inches they are, to, I've got a big pack here of 4-inch squares. And I spent some time this week counting these. So I think I'm up to 380, 390 of these 4-inch squares that I salvage when I finished a quilt or whatever, if it's suitable for quilting. And then I cut out the squares ready for a future project. What else have I got? These are 3.5-inch squares. There's perhaps 100 or so in there. So I would like to use these squares in a scrap quilt project alongside some coordinating fabric, possibly sashing or whatever. What I have ordered is a book off eBay, and it was a book that Chris O'Neill recommended about scrap quilting. I have one book, but it hasn't really inspired me. So I thought, well, take a punt on this book, but it hasn't arrived yet. So I would have shown you if it had arrived. So that's one thing I want to do this week, is when the book arrives, have a play around with the fabrics I have cut out and the other fabrics I have that I could use for sort of a coordinating element. To go back to Kate of the Last Homely House, she has, and I've seen other quilters with this, a design wall where I don't know what they put on it, some kind of I don't know, like perhaps a polyester wadding which fabric will stick to, and they can put up then their squares or designs and move things around. I'd love that, but this room has got the sloping ceilings, so I couldn't really have a design wall. There's a tiny straight wall down that end, so a design wall wouldn't work in here. I have considered swapping rooms with Andrew's office, but that's smaller, so we'll see. So that's one of my plans, is to wait for my book to arrive and then have a play around with some designs to start sewing a scrap quilt. So I'm just going to pop those back there. The other thing I'd like to do is create in this book a quilt record of the quilts I've made. Is that just giving myself more work? But I want to do it. I want to make something that's pretty to remind me of the quilts I've made. Now, this book was given to me by a friend many years ago, and it's an old hardback, and I think it was a charity that made it. So they've bound in some plain pages, and then they've kept some of the text of the old book. I think that's really neat. That's a really cute idea. I think it was made in Brecon. It's called Handmade by Rebound Books. So I'm going to use this book to, and I have made a start to print off. This is a quilt I made for our granddaughter. And I want to stick in the photos, now we've got printer ink, of the quilts and a description of the block sizes, etc. I think that'll be a really nice record of the quilts I've made. To be honest, I wasn't sure what else to use this journal for, because it's so nice. I wanted to do something nice in it, not just use it as a straightforward notebook. So that's another plan I've got this week. I'm just going to review my notes here and see if there's anything else I would like to add. So this week I've spent quite a bit of time at home sorting out stuff. And I don't know if I've mentioned this before. So we moved here coming up 2 years in December, and we do have a lot of stuff. Andrew's got hobbies, I've got my hobbies, and we've decorated room by room. But stuff, oh my gosh. So I spent some of the week getting organised. And what's getting organised about? Is it about control? I do feel better now I've done it. Bagged up some stuff for charity shops, put some stuff, like a few knickknacks. I haven't got a lot of knickknacks, I don't think. So put some knickknacks on shelves, now things are decorated. You know, I've still got stuff from our boys, which really should be in their houses. And what else have I sorted out? Oh, our utility room is a big mess. Anyway, I digress. Sorting out. I do feel better now I've done it. Obviously, it's an ongoing process, but it does make me feel a bit more in control. So that's some chat. about what I did last week and anything else. I'm going to listen to a radio program that I've just noticed on Radio 4. I'm a big Radio 4 fan. And it's called The Great Influencer Experiment. And we all know how wonderful YouTube can be for community building, sharing tips, helping us, or helping me anyway, I can talk about myself, feel connected to people. And this sounds a really interesting program. So it's on Radio 4. It's called The Great Influencer Experiment. And it's actually finished now. It was on at 11 o'clock this morning. So I'm going to get that on catch up and have a listen to that. Because I feel particularly the sewing community is a really positive force behind YouTube or within YouTube. I've gone off Instagram a little bit. Anyway, but YouTube. So that's a bit of a ramble, a bit disjointed. It's because I've written stuff down in this book and it's not really in order. Anyway, hope you've got some stitching planned, and it's a nice day up here. I've just I put some washing in earlier, so that's going to be hung out to dry nice and fresh. And yeah, I was talking about finding the joy. I think I have found some joy this week in my making, and I hope you have too. So best wishes, look after yourselves, and see you next time. Bye.